Pay attention to this Ring doorbell footage. March 9, 2024, 11:47 p.m., Coral Gables, Florida. The camera is mounted on the front gate of a $12 million Mediterranean-style mansion, and it captures only 38 seconds. In the frame, you see Imani Scott, 26, stepping out of a black Bentley Continental. She's wearing a champagne-colored silk dress that catches the security lights, Louboutin heels clicking against the cobblestone driveway, carrying a small Hermes Birkin clutch. She's coming home from what should have been a romantic dinner. Nothing looks wrong at first, but watch closely. Notice how she pauses for exactly 4 seconds at the gate keypad. Her hand hovers over the buttons. She's entered this code 100 times in the past 4 months, but tonight her fingers hesitate. Notice how she glances back at the Bentley as it pulls away. The interior light is still on. She can see the driver, Lawrence, in the rearview mirror. She waves. He doesn't wave back. He just drives away into the darkness. Notice the slight head tilt at timestamp 0:22 when she looks toward the side garden, past the fountain, toward the shadows near the west wing of the house. Something caught her attention. A movement, a sound, something that made her pause mid-step and squint into the darkness. Notice how the interior lights of the mansion are completely dark. Every window, every room. Even though she texted her best friend Keisha at 11:32 p.m. saying she'd left lights on in the kitchen, left her laptop charging in the bedroom, left the television on in the living room. Everything is dark. At 0:31, she enters her security code. The wrought iron gate slides open with a mechanical hum that sounds too loud in the quiet night. She makes one decision that feels completely routine, completely safe, completely normal. She walks through. At exactly 11:48 p.m., the camera captures her stepping through the gate. The angle shifts as she moves up the curved driveway toward the front entrance. Her silhouette passes the fountain with its stone cherubs, the imported Italian sculptures Lawrence had commissioned from Florence, the manicured hedges trimmed into perfect geometric shapes by the landscaping crew that came every Thursday. At 11 hours 48 minutes and 34 seconds, she disappears around the corner of the mansion, heading toward the back entrance she always used because it was closer to the guest wing where she'd been staying. The camera loses her. And this is what makes this footage different from every other clip you've seen, every other true crime case you've watched, every other mystery you thought you understood. Someone else entered that property 46 minutes earlier, through the back door, using a key that only 2 people in the world possessed. One of those people was Lawrence Caldwell, the 61-year-old real estate mogul who owned the mansion. The other was a man named Victor Reyes. And Victor had been waiting in the dark kitchen for 49 minutes when Imani walked through that gate. That is the last time anyone sees Imani Scott alive. Imani Scott was 26 years old. She grew up in Liberty City, one of Miami's toughest neighborhoods. The kind of neighborhood where gunshots at night didn't surprise anyone, where police sirens were background noise, where corner stores had bulletproof glass and nobody walked alone after dark. She was raised by a single mother, Sharon Scott, who worked double shifts as a home health aide, morning shift with an elderly man in Coral Gables who had Alzheimer's, evening shift with a stroke victim in Coconut Grove, and still couldn't always make rent on their 2-bedroom apartment. Imani shared that apartment with her mother and older sister Nia until she was 18. The apartment had peeling paint on the walls, an air conditioner that only worked on the highest setting, and roaches that came out at night no matter how much they cleaned. Imani wore thrift store clothes to Miami Northwestern Senior High School, not because she wanted to, but because that's all her mother could afford. She worked weekends at Panera Bread on Biscayne Boulevard, taking the bus there and back, saving every dollar to help with bills. She took out student loans to afford Miami-Dade College, then transferred to University of Miami on a partial scholarship that covered tuition but not housing, not books, not food. She graduated in 2021 with a degree in communications and a 3.4 GPA. After college, Imani got a job as a receptionist at a marketing firm in Brickell, $38,000 a year before taxes. She rented a studio apartment in Edgewater for $1,400 a month. The apartment was 400 square feet with a window that looked onto a brick wall, a kitchen so small she could touch both walls at the same time, and neighbors who played reggaeton until 2 a.m. on weeknights. She took the metro rail to work. She ate ramen and rice most nights. She sent $200 home to her mother every month even though she could barely afford it. Her friends from college described her as ambitious, smart, beautiful. The kind of woman who knew she deserved better than what life had given her so far. The kind of woman who wasn't content to struggle forever. The kind of woman who, when opportunity knocked, would answer. And in December 2023, opportunity knocked. His name was Lawrence Caldwell. And by March 2024, he would have her murdered. Lawrence Caldwell was 61 years old and he looked like money. Not new money. Not the kind that wore Gucci belts and drove Lamborghinis and shouted about their wealth. Old money. The kind of wealth that whispered. The kind that didn't need logos or explanations or proof because everyone who mattered already knew. He was tall, 6'1", with silver hair that was styled twice a week by a barber who came to his home. He had a year-round tan maintained by twice-weekly golf games at Coral Gables Country Club, where membership cost $250,000, and the waiting list was 5 years long. He wore custom-tailored Tom Ford suits that cost $8,000 each, handmade Italian leather shoes from a cobbler in Florence, and a Rolex Daytona on his wrist that he'd bought in 2001 for $15,000 and was now worth $75,000. He'd never once mentioned the watch to anyone. Lawrence was a third-generation Miami real estate mogul. His grandfather, William Caldwell, had started Caldwell Development Corporation in 1952, building modest single-family homes in Coral Gables when the area was still considered the outskirts of Miami, when you could buy an acre of land for $3,000. His father, James Caldwell, expanded the business in the 1970s and 80s, building shopping centers and office buildings across South Florida during the cocaine boom when Miami was awash in cash and no one asked too many questions. And Lawrence took the family business into luxury real estate in the 1990s, developing high-rise condos in Brick Hill with water views and concierge service, beachfront hotels in South Beach with rooftop pools and celebrity clientele, mixed-use properties in Wynwood back when Wynwood was still a warehouse district and people thought he was crazy for investing there. He wasn't crazy. He was visionary. Caldwell Development Corporation was now worth an estimated $340 million. Lawrence personally owned properties across South Florida and beyond. A $12 million estate in Coral Gables with 9 bathrooms and a pool that looked like it belonged at a resort. A 72-foot Azimut yacht docked at Dinner Key Marina that cost $3.5 million and required a full-time captain. A ranch in Aspen with mountain views and a private ski lift. A penthouse in Brick Hill that served as his downtown office, and enough political. By the end of the conversation, he handed her his business card. Embossed. Heavy cardstock. Caldwell Development Corporation, in serif font. If you're ever free for dinner, he said. I know some great places. Imani looked at the card, then at him. Are you married? She asked directly. Lawrence didn't hesitate. The lie came easily because he'd told it before. Separated, he said. Going through a divorce. It's complicated, but it's happening. Just waiting for the lawyers to finalize everything. It was a complete lie, but Imani wanted to believe it. She was 26 years old, working a dead-end job, living in a studio apartment with roaches, sending money home to her mother who could barely pay rent. She wanted something better, something more. And here was a wealthy, handsome, sophisticated older man who seemed genuinely interested in her. She called him 3 days later. The affair started slowly at first. Dinner at expensive restaurants. Zuma in downtown Miami where the sushi cost $200 per person. Casa Tua in South Beach where celebrities ate in private booths. The Forge where the wine list had bottles that cost $10,000. Walks on South Beach at sunset. Lawrence holding her hand while they strolled past Art Deco hotels and tourists taking selfies. Drinks at rooftop bars, Juvia, Sugar, Area 31, where the champagne cost $400 a bottle and the views stretched across Biscayne Bay to the cruise ships docked at the port. Lawrence paid for everything without blinking, without even looking at the check. He'd just hand over his black Amex and sign whatever was put in front of him. Imani had never experienced anything like it. By late December, She was staying at Lawrence's Coral Gables mansion 2 or 3 nights a week. Catherine was still in Europe. The kids were in New York and Los Angeles. The house was empty except for Lawrence and Imani and the housekeeper who came twice a week and knew better than to ask questions. The mansion was like something from a magazine. 9,000 square feet. Marble floors imported from Italy. A kitchen with 2 ovens, a wine fridge, and countertops made from white Carrara marble. A pool that looked like it belonged at a resort, with a waterfall feature and underwater lights that turned the water blue at night. A master bedroom with a California king bed, a walk-in closet the size of Imani's entire studio apartment, and a bathroom with a soaking tub and a shower with 6 different jets. Imani felt like she was living in a dream. By January, she'd stopped going home to her studio apartment in Edgewater altogether. She was living at the mansion full-time. Lawrence had given her a key, told her to make herself at home, told her she didn't need to work anymore. "I'll take care of you," he'd said. "You don't need to worry about money." And he did take care of her. He bought her clothes, designer dresses from Saks Fifth Avenue, shoes from Neiman Marcus, handbags from the Louis Vuitton store in the Design District. He bought her jewelry, a Cartier love bracelet, diamond stud earrings, a Tiffany necklace. He bought her a car, a Mercedes C-Class, white with tan leather interior, because he said he didn't like her taking the bus. He gave her a credit card linked to one of his accounts. "Use it for whatever you need," he said. "Groceries, gas, shopping, whatever." Imani felt like Cinderella. She quit her receptionist job in mid-February. She didn't need it anymore. Lawrence was taking care of everything. He told her he loved her. Told her she was different from anyone he'd ever known. Told her that once the divorce from Catherine was finalized, which his lawyers said would take another 6 months because Catherine was contesting it, they'd be together properly, publicly. He'd introduce her to his friends, his business associates, his children. They'd travel together, live together openly, maybe even get married eventually. Imani believed every word. She fell in love with him. She imagined a future where she was Mrs. Lawrence Caldwell, where she lived in that mansion permanently, where she hosted charity events and went to galas and never had to worry about money again. She imagined calling her mother and telling her she'd never have to work another double shift. She imagined paying off Nia's student loans. She imagined buying her family a house in a safe neighborhood with a real yard and no gunshots at night. She imagined everything. But on March 5, 2024, everything changed. Catherine came home from Europe. March 5, 2024. Tuesday morning. Catherine Caldwell's flight from London landed at Miami International Airport at 9:47 a.m. Lawrence picked her up himself, drove her home in his Mercedes S-Class, made small talk about her trip, about their daughter Sophia, about the weather in London. Catherine had no idea he'd been living with another woman for the past 2 months. When they arrived at the mansion, Lawrence told Imani she needed to leave. He'd texted her at 7:30 a.m. while he was driving to the airport. "Catherine's coming home today. You need to be gone by the time we get back. Pack your things. I'll call you later." Imani had stared at that text for 10 minutes. She'd been living in the mansion for 8 weeks. She'd moved her clothes into the walk-in closet. She'd put her toiletries in the master bathroom. She'd started thinking of the house as home. And now Lawrence was telling her to leave because his wife was coming back. The wife he was supposed to be divorcing. Imani packed her things quickly. 2 suitcases full of the designer clothes he'd bought her. The jewelry. The handbag. She called an Uber because she didn't know where else to go. Her studio apartment lease had ended in February and she hadn't renewed it because Lawrence said she didn't need to. She went to her friend Keisha's apartment in North Miami. Keisha had a 1-bedroom and let Imani sleep on the couch. "What happened?" Keisha asked. "His wife came back," Imani said. "I thought they were getting divorced," Keisha said. "So did I," Imani said quietly. She waited for Lawrence to call. He didn't call that day, or the next day. On March 7th, 3 days after Catherine came home, Imani finally texted him, "We need to talk." Lawrence responded an hour later, "Come to the house at 2 p.m. Catherine will be at her tennis lesson." March 7th, 2024. Thursday, 2 p.m. Imani arrived at the mansion in the Mercedes he'd bought her. Lawrence was waiting in his home office. The room with the mahogany bookshelves, the antique Cuban desk, the framed architectural drawings of buildings he'd developed. He was sitting in his chair, wearing khakis and a polo shirt. Casual. Calm. Too calm. "Sit down," he said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. Imani sat. Her heart was pounding. "Lawrence, what's going on?" she asked. "Why did you make me leave?" "I thought." "You thought what?" Lawrence interrupted. His voice was still calm, but there was something cold underneath it. "I thought we were going to be together," Imani said. "You said once the divorce was finalized." Lawrence laughed. Not a warm laugh, a dismissive laugh. "Imani," he said, "there is no divorce." The words hit her like a slap. "What?" she whispered. "I'm not getting divorced," Lawrence said flatly. "I never was. I told you that because it's what you wanted to hear." Imani felt like the room was spinning. "But you said you loved me. You said we had a future." "I said what I needed to say to keep you happy," Lawrence replied. "And you got 4 months of living in a mansion, driving a Mercedes, wearing designer clothes, not having to work." By the end of the conversation, he handed her his business card. Embossed. Heavy cardstock. Caldwell Development Corporation, in serif font. "If you're ever free for dinner," he said, "I know some great places." Imani looked at the card, then at him. "Are you married?" she asked directly. Lawrence didn't hesitate. The lie came easily because he'd told it before. "Separated," he said. "Going through a divorce. It's complicated, but it's happening. Just waiting for the lawyers to finalize everything." It was a complete lie, but Imani wanted to believe it. She was 26 years old, working a dead-end job, living in a studio apartment with roaches, sending money home to her mother who could barely pay rent. She wanted something better, something more. And here was a wealthy, handsome, sophisticated older man who seemed genuinely interested in her. She called him 3 days later. The affair started slowly at first. Dinner at expensive restaurants. Zuma in downtown Miami where the sushi cost $200 per person. Casa Tua in South Beach where celebrities ate in private booths. The Forge where the wine list had bottles that cost $10,000. Walks on South Beach at sunset. Lawrence holding her hand while they strolled past Art Deco hotels and tourists taking selfies. Drinks at rooftop bars, Juvia, Sugar, Area 31, where the champagne cost $400 a bottle and the views stretched across Biscayne Bay to the cruise ships docked at the port. Lawrence paid for everything without blinking, without even looking at the check. He'd just hand over his black Amex and sign whatever was put in front of him. Imani had never experienced anything like it. By late December, she was staying at Lawrence's Coral Gables mansion 2 or 3 nights a week. Catherine was still in Europe. The kids were in New York and Los Angeles. The house was empty except for Lawrence and Imani and the housekeeper who came twice a week and knew better than to ask questions. The mansion was like something from a magazine. 9,000 square feet. Marble floors imported from Italy. A kitchen with 2 ovens, a wine fridge, and countertops made from white Carrara marble. A pool that looked like it belonged at a resort, with a waterfall feature and underwater lights that turned the water blue at night. A master bedroom with a California king bed, a walk-in closet the size of Imani's entire studio apartment, and a bathroom with a soaking tub and a shower with 6 different jets. Imani felt like she was living in a dream. By January, she'd stopped going home to her studio apartment in Edgewater altogether. She was living at the mansion full-time. Lawrence had given her a key, told her to make herself at home, told her she didn't need to work anymore. "I'll take care of you," he'd said. "You don't need to worry about money." And he did take care of her. He bought her clothes, designer dresses from Saks Fifth Avenue, shoes from Neiman Marcus, handbags from the Louis Vuitton store in the design district. He bought her jewelry, a Cartier love bracelet, diamond stud earrings, a Tiffany necklace. He bought her a car, a Mercedes C-Class, white with tan leather interior, because he said he didn't like her taking the bus. He gave her a credit card linked to one of his accounts. "Use it for whatever you need," he said. Groceries, gas, shopping, whatever. Imani felt like Cinderella. She quit her receptionist job in mid-February. She didn't need it anymore. Lawrence was taking care of everything. He told her he loved her. Told her she was different from anyone he'd ever known. Told her that once the divorce from Catherine was finalized, which his lawyers said would take another 6 months because Catherine was contesting it, they'd be together properly, publicly. He'd introduce her to his friends, his business associates, his children. They'd travel together, live together openly, maybe even get married eventually. Imani believed every word. She fell in love with him. She imagined a future where she was Mrs. Lawrence Caldwell, where she lived in that mansion permanently, where she hosted charity events and went to galas and never had to worry about money again. She imagined calling her mother and telling her she'd never have to work another double shift. She imagined paying off Nia's student loans. She imagined buying her family a house in a safe neighborhood with a real yard and no gunshots at night. She imagined everything. But on March 5, 2024, everything changed. Catherine came home from Europe. March 5, 2024, Tuesday morning. Catherine Caldwell's flight from London landed at Miami International Airport at 9:47 a.m. Lawrence picked her up himself, drove her home in his Mercedes S-Class, made small talk about her trip, about their daughter Sophia, about the weather in London. Catherine had no idea he'd been living with another woman for the past 2 months. When they arrived at the mansion, Lawrence told Imani she needed to leave. He'd texted her at 7:30 a.m. while he was driving to the airport. Catherine's coming home today. You need to be gone by the time we get back. Pack your things. I'll call you later. Imani had stared at that text for 10 minutes. She'd been living in the mansion for 8 weeks. She'd moved her clothes into the walk-in closet. She'd put her toiletries in the master bathroom. She'd started thinking of the house as home. And now Lawrence was telling her to leave because his wife was coming back. The wife he was supposed to be divorcing. Imani packed her things quickly. 2 suitcases full of the designer clothes he'd bought her. The jewelry. The handbag. She called an Uber because she didn't know where else to go. Her studio apartment lease had ended in February and she hadn't renewed it because Lawrence said she didn't need to. She went to her friend Keisha's apartment in North Miami. Keisha had a 1-bedroom and let Imani sleep on the couch. What happened? Keisha asked. His wife came back, Imani said. I thought they were getting divorced, Keisha said. So did I, Imani said quietly. She waited for Lawrence to call. He didn't call that day, or the next day. On March 7th, 3 days after Catherine came home, Imani finally texted him. We need to talk. Lawrence responded an hour later. Come to the house at 2 p.m. Catherine will be at her tennis lesson. March 7th, 2024. Thursday, 2 p.m. Imani arrived at the mansion in the Mercedes he'd bought her. Lawrence was waiting in his home office. The room with the mahogany bookshelves, the antique Cuban desk, the framed architectural drawings of buildings he'd developed. He was sitting in his chair wearing khakis and a polo shirt. Casual. Calm. Too calm. Sit down, he said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. Imani sat. Her heart was pounding. Lawrence, what's going on? She asked. Why did you make me leave? I thought. You thought what? Lawrence interrupted. His voice was still calm, but there was something cold underneath it. I thought we were going to be together, Imani said. You said once the divorce was finalized. Lawrence laughed. Not a warm laugh, a dismissive laugh. Imani, he said, there is no divorce. The words hit her like a slap. What? She whispered. I'm not getting divorced, Lawrence said flatly. I never was. I told you that because it's what you wanted to hear. Imani felt like the room was spinning. But you said you loved me. You said we had a future. I said what I needed to say to keep you happy, Lawrence replied. And you got 4 months of living in a mansion, driving a Mercedes, wearing designer clothes, not having to work. That's more than most women in your position ever get. You should be grateful. My position? Imani repeated. Her voice was shaking now. What position is that? A mistress, Lawrence said bluntly. That's what you were. What you are. And now it's over. Imani felt tears burning behind her eyes, but she refused to cry in front of him. You lied to me, she said. I told you what you wanted to hear, Lawrence corrected. There's a difference. He opened a drawer in his desk, pulled out a manila envelope, set it on the desk between them. There's $100,000 in here, he said. Cash. Take it. Start over. Find someone your own age. But this, whatever this was, it ends today. Catherine is back. My life goes back to normal. And you disappear. Imani stared at the envelope like it was a snake. And what if I don't want to disappear? She asked quietly. Lawrence's expression hardened. Then you'll regret it, he said. Is that a threat? It's a promise, Lawrence said. I've built my entire life on my reputation, my family, my business, my name. And I'm not going to let some girl from Liberty City destroy that because she caught feelings. The way he said some girl from Liberty City made Imani's blood boil. I could tell your wife, Imani said. I could tell her everything. Every lie you told. Every night you spent with me in her bed. Lawrence stood up slowly, walked around the desk, stopped 2 feet from where Imani was sitting. He looked down at her with cold, dead eyes. If you do that, he said quietly, you will regret it for the rest of your very short life. Imani felt a chill run down her spine. Are you threatening to hurt me? She asked. I'm telling you that I protect what's mine, Lawrence said. And I know how to make problems disappear. I've done it before. Don't test me. Imani stood up, faced him. Fuck you, she said. Fuck you and your money and your threats. I'm going to tell your wife everything. I'm going to tell your kids. I'm going to tell everyone who thinks you're such a great man what you really are. Lawrence's face didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. You should reconsider, he said. No, Imani said. I'm done being scared of men like you. She turned and walked out of the office. That night, Imani stayed at Keisha's apartment again. She was shaking with rage and humiliation and fear. Keisha made her tea and sat with her on the couch. He played me, Imani said. He made me believe he loved me. He made me believe we had a future. And it was all lies. He's a piece of shit, Keisha said. But Imani, you need to just walk away. Take the money and move on. I'm not taking his money, Imani said. I'm going to his wife. I'm going to tell Catherine everything. Keisha's face went pale. Imani, no. Don't. Men like that. Rich men, powerful men. They don't just let you walk away and ruin their lives. Let him try to stop me, Imani said. You don't understand, Keisha said. Men like Lawrence Caldwell don't play fair. They have lawyers. They have connections. They have ways of making people disappear. He said that, Imani said quietly. He said he knows how to make problems disappear. Then believe him, Keisha begged. Please, just take the money. Leave Miami. Start over somewhere else. But Imani wasn't listening. She was already drafting an email to Catherine in her head. March 8, 2024. Friday. Imani spent the day researching Catherine Caldwell online. She found Catherine's Facebook profile. Photos of charity events, country club lunches, family gatherings. Catherine looked happy, elegant, completely oblivious to the fact that her husband had been cheating on her. Imani found Catherine's email address through the Miami Children's Hospital Foundation website where Catherine served on the board. She drafted an email. Subject: about your husband. Body: Dear Mrs. Caldwell, my name is Imani Scott. I'm writing to inform you that your husband Lawrence has been having an affair with me for the past 4 months. He told me he was getting divorced from you. He told me he loved me. He moved me into your home while you were in Europe. I'm telling you this because you deserve to know the truth about the man you're married to. Imani wrote out every detail, every date, every restaurant, every lie. She saved it as a draft. She wanted to give Lawrence one more chance. At 3:15 p.m., she texted him. I'm giving you 24 hours to tell Catherine yourself. If you don't, I will. Lawrence read the message immediately. He didn't respond. But 5 minutes later, he made a phone call. The call went to a burner phone. A prepaid flip phone that Lawrence kept hidden in his car, tucked in the glove compartment under the registration and insurance documents. A man answered on the second ring. "Yeah," the man said. His voice was rough, tired. "It's me," Lawrence said. "I have a situation." The man on the other end was Victor Reyes. He was 48 years old, former Marine, dishonorably discharged in 2003 for putting another soldier in the hospital during a fight. After the discharge, he'd drifted. Security work at Miami Beach nightclubs, some debt collection for loan sharks in Little Havana, a short stint in county jail for assault. In 2009, a mutual acquaintance had introduced Victor to Lawrence. Lawrence had a problem back then. A 23-year-old woman named Carly Preston who wouldn't accept that their affair was over. She wanted marriage. She wanted $2 million. She threatened to tell Catherine everything. Lawrence asked Victor if he could handle it. Victor made Carly disappear. Lawrence paid him $250,000 in cash. After that, Victor became Lawrence's fixer. Over the next 15 years, Lawrence had paid Victor $3.2 million to solve various problems. Most of those problems were women. "What kind of situation?" Victor asked now. "The kind that needs to disappear," Lawrence said. "Like before." "Exactly like before," Lawrence confirmed. "Her name is Imani Scott, 26 years old. She's threatening to go to Catherine. I can't let that happen." "When?" Victor asked. "Tomorrow night," Lawrence said. "I'll take her to dinner. Make her think we're working things out. I'll drop her at the house around midnight. You'll be waiting inside. Make it clean. Make it look like she never came home." "What about the body?" Victor asked. "I have a construction site in Kendall," Lawrence said. "New condo development. Foundations getting poured in 4 days. Bury her there. Cost $400,000, Lawrence said. "Same as last time. Half now, half when it's done." "Deal," Victor said. Within an hour, Lawrence transferred $200,000 to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. By 6 p.m., Victor was already preparing. He had everything he needed. A gun with a suppressor, gloves, a tarp, my reputation, everything I've built. "But you're right. You deserve better than that." Imani was sitting on Keisha's couch, staring at her phone. "What are you saying?" she asked cautiously. "I'm saying let's talk," Lawrence said. "Face to face. Tonight. Let me take you to dinner. We can figure this out like adults." "Figure what out?" Imani asked. "How to move forward," Lawrence said. "Maybe I was too quick to end things. Maybe there's a way to make this work. I need time to figure out how to tell Catherine. How to do this the right way. But I want to try. For you. For us." Imani felt her heart jump. Maybe he'd changed his mind. Maybe he'd realized what he was losing. Maybe he actually did love her. "Are you serious?" she asked. "I've never been more serious about anything in my life," Lawrence said. "Please. One dinner. Give me a chance to make this right." Imani hesitated. Part of her knew this could be manipulation. Part of her wanted to believe him. "Okay," she said finally. "One dinner. I'll pick you up at 7:45, Lawrence said. "Wear something nice. I'm taking you somewhere special." He hung up. Imani sat on the couch, holding her phone. Keisha walked into the living room. "Was that him?" "Yeah," Imani said. "He wants to have dinner tonight. He says he wants to work things out." Keisha's face went dark. "Imani, this feels wrong." "Maybe he realized he made a mistake," Imani said. "Or maybe he's setting you up," Keisha said. "Please don't go. I have to give him a chance," Imani said. "Then at least tell me where you're going," Keisha begged. "Share your location with me on your phone. Keep it on the whole time." "Something." "I will," Imani promised. "I'll be careful." But she didn't know that Lawrence had already set the trap, and that Victor Reyes was already on his way to the mansion to wait for her. March 9, 2024, 7:45 p.m. Lawrence picked Imani up in his Bentley Continental. She was wearing the champagne-colored silk dress he'd bought her at Saks in January, the Louboutin heels. Her hair was done, makeup perfect. She looked beautiful. Lawrence smiled when she got in the car. "You look stunning." "Thank you," Imani said. She settled into the leather seat. As they drove toward the restaurant, Lawrence was charming. Warm. He held her hand. Told her how much he'd missed her the past few days. "I've been thinking about us constantly," he said. "About what you said. About how I've been putting my fear ahead of what I really want." "Which is?" Imani asked. "You," Lawrence said. He looked at her. "I want you." Imani felt her chest tighten with hope. They drove to the Capitol Grill in Coral Gables, one of the most expensive restaurants in Miami. Dark wood, leather booths, white tablecloths, wine list with bottles that cost $500. Lawrence had reserved a private corner booth. They sat down. A waiter appeared immediately with menus and a wine list. Lawrence ordered a bottle of Caymus Cabernet Sauvignon. $300. He didn't even look at the price. Over dinner, Lawrence was attentive, engaged. He asked about her family, her childhood, her dreams. He told her stories about his father, about building the company, about the early days when they were struggling to compete with the big developers. He made her laugh, made her feel seen, made her feel special. At 9:30 p.m., he reached across the table and took her hand. "I've been thinking," he said, "about us, about what you said the other day." "And?" Imani asked. "And maybe you're right," Lawrence said. "Maybe I've been too focused on protecting what I have instead of going after what I want." "Which is?" Imani pressed. "You," Lawrence said again. "I want you. I want to figure this out. I want to tell Catherine the truth. I want to be with you." Imani felt tears sting her eyes. Happy tears this time. "Really?" she whispered. "Really," Lawrence said. "It's going to take time. The divorce, telling the kids, dealing with all the legal stuff. But I'll do it. For you." He squeezed her hand. "I love you," he said. And Imani believed him. "I love you too," she said. They finished dinner around 10:45 p.m. Lawrence paid the check. $7.80 including wine and tip. They walked to the car. Lawrence opened her door for her, kissed her before she got in. As they drove back toward Coral Gables, Lawrence talked about the future. About trips they'd take together. About a condo he'd buy for her downtown while the divorce was being finalized. About how they'd make this work. Imani listened, her heart full. She had no idea that at 10:15 p.m., while they were still at the restaurant, Lawrence had excused himself to go to the bathroom. And in the bathroom, he'd pulled out his burner phone and sent a text to Victor. The message was simple. "She's coming. Midnight. Handle it." Victor had responded, "Ready." By 11:30 p.m., Victor was inside the mansion. He'd parked his black Chevy Suburban 2 blocks away, walked through the backyard, used the key Lawrence had given him 3 weeks earlier to enter through the back door. He disabled the interior security cameras using the code Lawrence had provided. Then he waited in the kitchen. Lights off, gun in hand, suppressor already attached. Waiting. At 11:47 p.m., Lawrence dropped Imani at the front gate. "I have to meet someone about a property deal," he said. "Last-minute thing. I'll be back in an hour. Make yourself comfortable. There's wine in the fridge." He kissed her. "I love you." "I love you too," Imani said. She got out of the car, walked to the gate, entered the code. The gate slid open. Lawrence drove away. Imani walked up the driveway toward the mansion. She was smiling. Everything was going to be okay. Lawrence was going to leave Catherine. They were going to be together. Her dream was coming true. She walked around to the back entrance. The door she always used. The one closer to the guest wing where she'd been staying. She unlocked it, stepped inside, and into the dark. March 10th, 2024, 12:03 a.m. The house was completely dark. Imani reached for the light switch in the hallway, flipped it. Nothing happened. "Lawrence?" she called out. No answer. She pulled out her phone, turned on the flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, illuminating the hallway, the marble floors, the expensive artwork on the walls. Something felt wrong. The house was too quiet, too still. Imani walked forward slowly toward the kitchen. Her heels clicked against the marble. She swept the flashlight left and right. That's when she saw him. A man, standing in the shadows near the kitchen island. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing all black, baseball cap pulled low over his face. Imani froze. "Who are you?" she said. Her voice came out thin, shaky. The man didn't answer. He took one step forward into the light from her phone. That's when Imani saw the gun. Matte black, suppressor attached to the barrel. Pointed at her. She screamed, dropped her phone. The flashlight beam spun across the floor. She turned to run. But Victor was faster. He crossed the kitchen in 3 strides, grabbed her by the arm, yanked her backward. Imani stumbled, lost one of her heels, crashed into the counter. Her phone skittered across the floor. The flashlight beam hit the wall and went dark. "Please," Imani gasped. "Please don't." Victor didn't say anything. He grabbed her by the hair, yanked her head back violently, pressed the gun against the base of her skull. Imani tried to scream, but his other hand clamped streaming down her face. "Please, I'll leave. I won't tell anyone. I'll disappear. Just please." Victor had heard please before. From Carly Preston, who'd begged for her life in 2009. From Jasmine Torres, who'd promised to leave Miami and never come back. From Brittany Volkova, who'd cried and said she had a family. From Morgan Hayes, who'd offered him money to let her go. He'd learned a long time ago not to listen. He pulled the trigger. The suppressed gunshot sounded like a heavy book slamming shut. A dull thump that echoed through the empty kitchen. Imani's body went limp. She collapsed to the floor. Her champagne-colored dress pooled around her. One heel still on. One heel lost somewhere in the dark. Victor stood over her. Watched for 3 seconds, making sure. Then he fired again. Execution style. 2 shots to the head. Standard procedure. Imani Scott was dead at 12:07 a.m. on March 10, 2024. She was 26 years old. She died believing Lawrence loved her. She died believing they had a future together. She died not knowing that the man she loved had ordered her execution. Victor worked quickly. He'd done this enough times to have a system. He pulled a folded plastic tarp from the black duffel bag he'd brought, spread it on the floor next to Imani's body. He rolled her onto it. There was surprisingly little blood. The suppressor had kept everything contained. Most of the damage was internal. He wrapped the body tightly in the tarp, sealed the edges with duct tape. Then he grabbed the large Persian rug from the foyer, the one Lawrence had told him to use, the one that was scheduled to be donated to charity next week according to the household staff schedule Lawrence had provided. Victor rolled Imani's wrapped body inside the rug, secured it with rope. The security cameras inside the mansion had been disabled at 10:47 p.m. Lawrence had done it remotely from his car using an app on his phone while sitting in a parking lot 2 blocks away, watching the clock, waiting for midnight. Victor hoisted the rug onto his shoulder. It was heavy. Imani had been 128 pounds. The rug was another 60. But Victor was strong. He'd carried bodies before. He carried it through the back hallway, through the door he'd entered, out into the humid Miami night. The exterior security camera near the back entrance captured him at 3:51 a.m., a figure in dark clothing, face obscured by the baseball cap, carrying a rolled rug. He loaded it into the back of his black Chevy Suburban, closed the rear hatch, started the engine, drove away. The nearest house was 200 yards away, hidden behind walls and hedges and palm trees. No one saw, no one heard, no one knew that Imani Scott was dead. Not yet. Victor drove south, through Coral Gables, through Pinecrest, through Kendall. 47 minutes of driving on empty roads at 4 a.m. He took Southwest 137th Avenue heading west toward Homestead, then turned onto a private access road marked with a construction sign. Caldwell Development Corp. Authorized vehicles only. The site was a luxury condo project. 16 stories when finished. 220 residential units. rooftop pool and lounge, ground floor retail space, underground parking garage. Construction had started 8 months ago. The foundation had been excavated. A massive pit 40 feet deep, where the 2 levels of underground parking would eventually be built. Steel rebar frameworks were going up. Concrete was being poured in phases. The next pour was scheduled for March 13th. For days away, Victor had a key to the construction site gate. Lawrence had given it to him 3 weeks earlier when they'd first started planning this. Just in case, Lawrence had said, you might need access after hours. Victor drove through the gate at 4:38 a.m., parked near the edge of the foundation pit, got out, opened the rear hatch, pulled out the rug with Imani's body inside, dragged it to the edge of the pit. The pit was dark. No lights, no workers. Construction didn't start until 7 a.m. Victor climbed down into the pit using a ladder the workers had left, dragged the rug down with him. At the bottom, there was a section that hadn't been poured yet. Exposed dirt. Rebar grids laid out, waiting for concrete. Victor unrolled the rug, unwrapped the tarp. Imani's body lay in the dirt, eyes open, staring at nothing, mouth slightly parted. 2 bullet wounds in the back of her head. Blood matted in her hair. The champagne-colored dress torn and dirty. Victor didn't look at her face. He never looked at their faces. It made the job easier. He grabbed a shovel that was leaning against the pit wall. Started digging. The dirt was hard, packed, rocky. It took him 38 minutes to dig a trench deep enough. 6 feet long, 3 feet deep. He rolled Imani's body into the trench. She landed face down in the dirt. He shoveled the dirt back over her, covered her completely, packed it down with the back of the shovel. By 5:47 a.m., there was no trace of her. Just a section of dirt floor in a construction pit that would be covered with concrete in 4 days. Victor climbed out of the pit, threw the tarp and the rug into an industrial dumpster on the far side of the construction site, poured gasoline from a container he kept in his truck over them, lit a match. The flames consumed the evidence in minutes. Victor drove away at 6:02 a.m., stopped at a gas station in Kendall at 6:14 a.m. to fill his tank. Paid with cash. Kept the receipt without thinking about it. Just habit. Something to claim on his taxes later if he needed to account for the mileage. That receipt would later help convict him. But he didn't know that yet. 3 days later, on March 13th, concrete trucks arrived at the Caldwell Development construction site. Workers poured 14,000 cubic feet of concrete over the foundation, including the section where Imani Scott was buried. Her body was now entombed beneath what would become the parking garage of a $180 million luxury condominium development. Lawrence Caldwell's development. And for 3 weeks no one knew she was there. March 11, 2024. Monday morning. 9:32 a.m. Sharon Scott called her daughter Imani's phone for the 7th time. Straight to voicemail. Hi, this is Imani. I can't get to the phone right now, but leave a message and I'll call you back. The cheerful voice on the recording made Sharon's chest tighten. She'd been calling since yesterday. Since Sunday morning when Imani didn't show up for their weekly brunch at their favorite spot in Little Haiti. A Haitian restaurant called Chef Creole that served griot and pickles and sweet plantains. Imani never missed Sunday brunch with her mother. Never. Sharon tried texting again. Baby, please call me. I'm worried. Are you okay? No response. The message showed delivered, which meant Imani's phone was on, connected to the network somewhere, but Imani wasn't reading the messages. Sharon called Nia in Atlanta. Have you heard from your sister? Sharon asked. Not since Friday, Nia said. Why? What's wrong? She didn't show up for brunch yesterday, Sharon said. She's not answering her phone. I'm worried. Maybe her phone died, Nia suggested. Or maybe she's just busy with that boyfriend. For 2 days, Sharon said. Without calling? That's not like her. Nia was quiet for a moment. Call her friend Keisha, Nia said. See if she knows anything. Sharon found Keisha's number in her contacts. Called her. Keisha answered on the second ring. Mrs. Scott. Keisha, have you seen Imani? Sharon asked. She's not answering her phone and I'm getting worried. Keisha hesitated. She'd been worried too. Imani had left for dinner with Lawrence on Saturday night at 7:45 p.m. She'd promised to text Keisha when she got home. She never texted. Keisha had tried calling Sunday morning. No answer. She'd driven to Lawrence's mansion on Sunday afternoon. The gate was closed. No one answered the intercom. She went to dinner with Lawrence. She was supposed to text me after dinner, but she never did. I tried calling. No answer. Sharon felt her worry turning into fear. I'm calling the police, she said. March 11, 2024. 11:47 a.m. Sharon filed a missing person report at the Miami Police Department's Coral Gables station. The officer taking the report was a middle-aged white man named Detective Robert Chin. He'd been with Miami PD for 18 years. When did you last have contact with your daughter? Chin asked. Friday afternoon, Sharon said. We texted. She said she was going to dinner with her boyfriend Saturday night. But she never came home. She's not answering her phone. How old is your daughter? Chin asked. 26, Sharon said. Chin nodded. Wrote it down. 26 was an adult. Adults had the right to disappear if they wanted to. They could turn off their phones, leave town, not tell their families where they were going. It happened all the time. Has your daughter been having any problems lately? Chin asked. Relationship issues? Financial stress? Depression? No, Sharon said. She was happy. She has a good life. What about this boyfriend? Chin asked. What's his name? Lawrence Caldwell, Sharon said. He's a real estate developer. He lives in Coral Gables. Chun wrote down the name. He recognized it immediately. Lawrence Caldwell. Caldwell Development Corporation. One of the wealthiest men in Miami. Do you have reason to believe Mr. Caldwell might have harmed your daughter? Chin asked. I don't know, Sharon admitted. I didn't even know about him until today. My daughter's friend said Imani went to dinner with him Saturday night and never came back. Chin nodded. I'll make some calls. See what I can find out. In the meantime, does your daughter have any other friends or family she might be staying with? I've called everyone, Sharon said. No one's seen her. Chun took down all the information. Imani's phone number, her description, her last known location, Lawrence Caldwell's address. We'll look into it, he said. Most missing person cases resolve themselves within 48 hours. Your daughter probably just needs some space. But Sharon didn't believe that. Mothers know when something is wrong. And something was very wrong. March 12, 2024. Tuesday, 2:15 p.m. Detective Chun drove to Lawrence Caldwell's Coral Gables mansion. He called ahead. Lawrence had agreed to meet with him. Lawrence answered the door wearing khakis and a polo shirt. Calm, composed. Detective, Lawrence said, extending his hand. Come in. They sat in the living room. Expensive furniture. Marble floors. Original artwork on the walls. Mr. Caldwell, I'm investigating a missing person case, Chun said. Imani Scott, 26 years old. Her mother filed a report yesterday. I understand you know Ms. Scott. I do, Lawrence said. We've been dating for a few months. When did you last see her? Chun asked. Saturday night, Lawrence said. I took her to dinner at the Capitol Grill. We finished around 11. I dropped her at the gate here around 11:47. She said she was going inside to grab some things she'd left in the guest room. I had a late meeting downtown, so I left. That's the last time I saw her. What kind of meeting? Chun asked. Business, Lawrence said. A potential investor from New York. We met at my Brickell office. The meeting ran from about 11:30 p.m. to 1:15 a.m. Can anyone verify that? Chun asked. My business partner was there, Lawrence said. Michael Torres. I can give you his number. Chun wrote it down. How was Ms. Scott's state of mind on Saturday? Chun asked. Lawrence paused. Looked thoughtful. She seemed happy, he said. We had a nice dinner. Good conversation. She was talking about the future. About us. So nothing seemed wrong? Chun pressed. No, Lawrence said. Nothing at all. And you haven't heard from her since Saturday night? Chen asked. No, Lawrence said. I tried calling Sunday. No answer. I assumed she went back to her friend's place. I didn't think anything was wrong. Chen looked around the mansion. Did Miss Scott live here with you? He asked. Not officially, Lawrence said. She stayed here sometimes. She had some clothes in the guest room. But she also stayed with her friend Keisha in North Miami. Do you know Keisha's last name? Chen asked. Williams, Lawrence said. Keisha Williams. She lives on Northeast 135th Street. Chen wrote it down. Mr. Caldwell, I have to ask. Were you and Miss Scott having any problems? Any arguments? Lawrence shook his head. No, he said. We got along well. She's a lovely young woman. I'm very worried about her. Chen studied Lawrence's face. The man looked genuinely concerned. Cooperative. Open. Nothing about his demeanor suggested he was hiding something. One more question, Chen said. Are you married, Mr. Caldwell? Lawrence didn't flinch. I am, he said. My wife Catherine knows about Imani. We've been separated for over a year. We're in the process of divorcing. It's amicable. It was a lie. But Chen had no way of knowing that. All right, Chen said, standing up. If you hear from Miss Scott, please contact me immediately. Of course, Lawrence said. He walked Chen to the door, shook his hand, closed the door, and allowed himself a small smile. The detective believed him. The alibi had worked. The business meeting he'd fabricated sitting alone in his Brickell office for 2 hours, creating fake timestamps on security footage using the building system he had admin access to, had worked. Lawrence poured himself a whiskey, sat in his living room, and waited for this to blow over. March 12, 2024. Evening. Detective Chen's investigation continued. He called Lawrence's business partner, Michael Torres. Michael confirmed the meeting, said he'd been there from 11:30 p.m. to 1:15 a.m. Saturday night. Said Lawrence had seemed normal. Michael Torres was lying. Lawrence had called him Monday morning and offered him $50,000 to corroborate the alibi. Michael had debts. A gambling problem. He said yes. Chen called the Brickell office building security. They confirmed that Lawrence's keycard had been used to enter the building at 11:28 p.m. Saturday and exit at 1:17 a.m. Sunday. It all checked out. Lawrence Caldwell had an airtight alibi. Chen also interviewed Keisha Williams. Keisha told him everything. About the affair. About Lawrence promising to divorce his wife. About him ending things with Imani on March 7th. About Imani threatening to tell Catherine. About Lawrence's threat, I know how to make problems disappear. About the text Imani had sent. If anything happens to me, it's Lawrence. Chen's instincts started screaming. But he had a problem. Lawrence had an alibi. Security footage showed him at his office building in Brickell at the time Imani went missing. Phone records showed no calls between Lawrence and anyone suspicious. And most importantly, there was no body. Without a body, without evidence of foul play, this was just a missing person case. And adults had the right to disappear. Chen filed his report. Conclusion. Imani Scott, 26, missing since March 9th. Last seen at Lawrence Caldwell's Coral Gables residence. No evidence of foul play. Possible voluntary disappearance following relationship issues. Case remains open, but he made a note in the file. Recommend follow-up if subject does not surface within 30 days. March 13, 2024. Wednesday. While Detective Chen was filing his report, concrete trucks arrived at the Caldwell Development construction site in Kendall. Workers poured 14,000 cubic feet of concrete into the foundation pit. The concrete covered everything. The dirt floor, the rebar grids, the section where Imani Scott was buried 6 feet down. By the end of the day, the concrete had hardened. Imani was now entombed beneath what would become a parking garage. Sealed forever, or so Lawrence thought. March 14, 2024. Thursday. Imani's disappearance started getting media attention. A local news station picked up the story. Missing. 26-year-old Miami woman vanishes after dinner date. They showed Imani's photo. A beautiful young black woman, smiling at the camera. They interviewed Sharon. "Please," Sharon said, tears streaming down her face. "If anyone has seen my daughter, please call the police. I just want her home." The story ran on the evening news. Lawrence watched it from his living room. Catherine was upstairs in the bedroom reading. She'd asked him about the news story earlier. "That poor girl," Catherine had said. "Did you know her?" "I met her a few times," Lawrence had lied. "Through some charity event." "Very sad." Catherine had nodded and gone back to her book. She had no idea. Lawrence poured another whiskey. Everything was going according to plan. March 15th, 2024. Friday. Keisha couldn't sleep. She'd been awake for 3 nights, thinking about Imani, thinking about the text message Imani had sent on March 7th. "If anything happens to me, it's Lawrence. He threatened me today. He said he knows how to make problems disappear." Keisha pulled out her phone. Read the message again. Imani had been right. Something had happened to her. And Lawrence was responsible. Keisha knew the Miami police weren't taking this seriously enough. They thought Imani had just run off, that she'd come back when she was ready. But Keisha knew better. She opened her laptop, Googled FBI Miami field office, found the phone number. At 2:17 a.m., she sent an email to the FBI's Miami office tip line. Subject: Missing woman, possible homicide. My friend Imani Scott has been missing since March 9th. Before she disappeared, she sent me a text saying that if anything happened to her, it was because of her boyfriend Lawrence Caldwell. He threatened her. He told her he knows how to make problems disappear. I think he killed her. Please investigate. Keisha attached a screenshot of Imani's text message. Attached photos of Imani. Attached everything she had. Then she hit send. And waited. March 16th, 2024. Saturday. 8:47 a.m. FBI Special Agent Marcus Delgado was working the weekend shift at the Miami field office. He was 41 years old. Been with the Bureau for 19 years. Started in the New York office working organized crime. Transferred to Miami in 2018 to be closer to his aging parents in Fort Lauderdale. He specialized in financial crimes now. Money laundering, fraud, embezzlement. But he still worked missing persons cases when they came across his desk, especially when they involved powerful people. He opened Keisha's email at 8:47 a.m., read it twice, looked at the text message screenshot. If anything happens to me, it's Lawrence. He threatened me today. He said he knows how to make problems disappear. Delgado sat back in his chair. This wasn't just a missing person case. This was a potential homicide. He Googled Lawrence Caldwell, found dozens of articles, society pages, business journals, charitable donations, net worth estimated at $340 million, connected to politicians, judges, business leaders across South Florida. The kind of man who could make problems disappear. Delgado pulled up the Miami PD missing person report on Imani Scott. Read Detective Chen's notes. Lawrence had an alibi. Security footage, witness corroboration. But Delgado had been doing this long enough to know that alibis could be faked, especially by men with money and resources. He called his supervisor. "I need authorization to open a federal investigation," Delgado said. "Missing person case. Imani Scott. I think it's a homicide." "Based on what?" his supervisor asked. "Based on a credible threat made by the last person to see her alive," Delgado said. "Lawrence Caldwell, real estate mogul, worth $340 million. The victim texted her friend saying if anything happened to her, it was because of Caldwell." His supervisor was quiet for a moment. "Caldwell is connected," he said. "You go after someone like him, you better have solid evidence." "Then let me find it," Delgado said. Authorization was granted that afternoon. On March 17th, Delgado requested warrants for Lawrence Caldwell's financial records, phone records, and property. On March 18th, a federal judge signed the warrants. And on March 19th, at 6:47 a.m., 12 FBI agents in tactical gear executed the warrants at Lawrence Caldwell's Coral Gables mansion. March 19, 2024. Wednesday, 6:47 a.m. Lawrence was drinking coffee in his kitchen when he heard the vehicles pull up outside. Multiple vehicles. Doors slamming. He walked to the front door. Looked through the peephole. FBI tactical agents in bulletproof vests. At least a dozen of them. Lawrence's stomach dropped. He opened the door. Agent Delgado stood on the doorstep holding a piece of paper. Lawrence Caldwell? Yes. We have a federal warrant to search this property and seize electronic devices, financial records, and any evidence related to the disappearance of Imani Scott. Step aside, please. Lawrence's mind raced. He'd been careful. The burner phone was hidden in his car in the garage. The security cameras had been wiped. Victor had disposed of the body. There was no evidence. Of course, Lawrence said calmly. Whatever you need. He stepped aside. 12 agents flooded into the mansion. Evidence technicians, digital forensics specialists, financial investigators. They went room by room, living room, dining room, kitchen, bedrooms, bathrooms, office. Catherine came downstairs in her bathrobe. Lawrence, what's happening? She asked. Just a misunderstanding, Lawrence said. That missing girl. They're looking for information. Catherine looked terrified. She had no idea about Imani, about the affair, about any of it. The agents worked methodically. In Lawrence's home office, they found his computer, his iPad, his personal cell phone. They seized all of it. One agent, a young woman named Special Agent Lisa Moreno, was searching Lawrence's desk. She opened the top drawer. Business cards, checkbook, pens. She opened the second drawer. Notepads, envelopes. She opened the bottom drawer, the deep one designed for hanging files. In the very back, behind a stack of tax documents from 2019, she found something. A small wooden box, dark wood, no markings. She lifted the lid. Inside was a burner phone, a cheap prepaid flip phone, the kind bought at gas stations with cash. Moreno's pulse quickened. Agent Delgado, she called out. Delgado came into the office. Moreno held up the phone. Found this hidden in his desk, she said. Delgado's eyes widened. He pulled on latex gloves, took the phone from her carefully, turned it on. The phone had one contact saved, V. Delgado opened the message history. Hundreds of texts going back years. He scrolled through them. Need your help with a situation. Same arrangement as before. $200,000 transferred to the account. She's becoming a problem. It's handled. Delgado's hands were shaking slightly as he scrolled. Then he found it. March 9, 2024. 10:15 p.m. She knows. Handle it. Response 3 minutes later. Understood. Delgado looked at the timestamp. 10:15 p.m. According to Lawrence's statement to Miami PD, he'd been at dinner with Imani at that time. He'd sent this message while sitting across from her, ordering her execution while holding her hand. Delgado felt sick. Bag it, he said to Moreno. This is evidence. March 19, 2024. 10:23 a.m. Lawrence was taken into custody. Not arrested yet. Just detained for questioning. They brought him to the FBI field office in downtown Miami. Put him in an interrogation room. Gray walls. Metal table. 2 chairs. Camera in the corner. Lawrence sat calmly. He'd already called his lawyer, Richard Mosley, one of the best criminal defense attorneys in South Florida. $850 an hour. Worth every penny. Mosley arrived within 40 minutes. Don't say anything, Mosley told Lawrence. Not one word. Agent Delgado entered the room. Sat down across from Lawrence. Set the burner phone on the table between them. Mr. Caldwell, we found this 4:38 a.m. Stayed there for over an hour. Left at 6:02 a.m. 3 days later, concrete had been poured at that site. Delgado looked at the location data on his computer screen. He knew. Imani Scott was buried at that construction site. On March 20th, Delgado got another warrant. This one to search the Kendall construction site and excavate the foundation. March 20th, 2024. Thursday, 2:35 p.m. FBI agents arrived at the Caldwell Development construction site in Kendall. Workers were on lunch break when the agents pulled up. Cranes sat idle. Cement mixers silent. The site manager, Roberto Cruz, walked up to Agent Delgado. "What's this about?" Roberto asked nervously. "We have a warrant to search the foundation," Delgado said. Roberto's face went pale. "The foundation was poured last week," he said. "You can't search it without tearing up the whole structure." "Then we'll tear it up," Delgado said. "Do you know how much that costs?" Roberto protested. "We're talking millions of dollars in delays." "We have a warrant," Delgado said. "Move your people back." Roberto called Lawrence immediately. Lawrence was at home with his lawyer preparing for what they knew was coming. "The FBI is here," Roberto said. "They're digging up the foundation." Lawrence closed his eyes. It was over. "Let them dig," Lawrence said quietly. He hung up. At 2:47 p.m., a cadaver dog named Sasha was brought to the construction site. Sasha was a German Shepherd trained to detect human remains. She'd been with the FBI's evidence recovery team for 6 years. She'd found bodies in the Everglades, in the ocean, buried in backyards, hidden in walls. Her handler, Agent Tom Briggs, walked Sasha around the perimeter of the foundation. The foundation was massive, 40 feet deep, covered in fresh concrete that had hardened into a smooth gray surface. Sasha sniffed the ground, walked slowly around the edge. Then she stopped at the northwest corner, sat down, barked twice. The alert. "She's got something," Briggs said. Delgado marked the spot with orange spray paint. Over the next 8 days, a specialized crew used jackhammers, excavators, and hand tools to carefully break through the concrete. They worked slowly, methodically, preserving evidence. The concrete was 14 inches thick. Beneath it was compacted dirt. They dug down 6 feet. And on March 29, 2024, at 11:43 a.m., they found her. March 29, 2024, 11:43 a.m. The excavator operator saw it first. Piece of fabric. Champagne-colored silk. Partially decomposed but still recognizable. He stopped immediately, called over the FBI evidence team. They switched to hand tools, brushes, trowels, working carefully around the fabric. Slowly they uncovered her. Amani Scott, buried 6 feet beneath the concrete foundation of a luxury condominium. Her body was partially decomposed. 19 days in the ground in humid Miami heat had taken its toll. But she was still recognizable. The champagne-colored dress she'd worn to dinner. The Louboutin heels, one still on her foot, one missing. Her hair, her face, and 2 bullet wounds in the back of her skull. Execution style. Agent Delgado stood at the edge of the pit looking down at her. Sharon Scott's daughter, 26 years old. Killed because she fell in love with the wrong man. "Get the medical examiner," Delgado said quietly, "and call Mrs. Scott. Tell her we found Imani." March 30th, 2024. Friday. The Miami-Dade medical examiner confirmed the identity through dental records. Victim: Imani Scott, 26 years old. Cause of death: 2 gunshot wounds to the head. Time of death: estimated between midnight and 4 a.m. on March 10th, 2024. Manner of death: homicide. The FBI now had a body. The burner phone with the message she knows. Handle it. Location data placing V's phone at the burial site. A clear timeline. But they still didn't have the shooter. They needed to find V. April 1st, 2024. Monday. The FBI issued a federal warrant for the person associated with the V phone. They didn't have a name yet, just a phone number. The tech team worked backwards through financial records. The prepaid phone had been purchased with cash at a Boost Mobile store in Homestead in 2009. But the FBI cross-referenced the location data from the phone with vehicle registration records, property records, utility bills, looking for someone who'd been at all the locations where the V phone had pinged over 15 years. Took 4 days. But on April 5th, they found him. Victor Manuel Reyes, 48 years old. Former Marine. dishonorably discharged in 2003. No legitimate employment for the past 20 years. Rented a small house in Homestead under an alias, Vincent Rivera. Paid cash every month. No lease. No paper trail. But utility bills were in the name Vincent Rivera at 14257 Southwest 288th Street, Homestead. The FBI cross-checked that address with the location data from the V phone. Perfect match. On April 5, 2024, at 6 a.m., FBI tactical agents surrounded the house. April 5, 2024, 6 a.m. Victor woke to the sound of megaphones. FBI, come out with your hands up. He knew immediately what was happening. They'd found the body, and they'd traced the phone. It was over. Victor got out of bed slowly, put on jeans and a t-shirt, walked to the front door. They searched his house, and they found everything. In the bedroom, in a drawer beneath his socks and underwear, they found a pair of black leather gloves. The FBI's forensics team tested them. Blood on the gloves. DNA testing confirmed Amani Scott's blood. In the garage, they found Victor's black Chevy Suburban. The same vehicle captured on security footage at Lawrence's mansion on March 10 at 3:51 a.m. Forensics found traces of dirt in the cargo area that matched the soil composition at the Kendall construction site. And in the glove compartment, they found a receipt. A gas station receipt from a Shell station in Kendall. Dated March 10, 2024. Timestamp 6:14 a.m. Victor had filled his tank after burying Imani. And he'd kept the receipt. One stupid mistake. That's all it took. April 6, 2024. Sunday. Lawrence Caldwell was arrested at his Coral Gables mansion. FBI agents arrived at 10:22 a.m. Catherine was home. She screamed when they put Lawrence in handcuffs. What's happening? Lawrence, what did you do? Lawrence said nothing. His lawyer arrived within 30 minutes. But there was nothing Richard Mosley could do. The evidence was overwhelming. Lawrence was charged with first-degree murder, Imani Scott, conspiracy to commit murder, solicitation of murder, obstruction of justice. Bail was set at $10 million. Mosley posted it the same day using Lawrence's real estate holdings as collateral. But Lawrence never went home, because the FBI wasn't done. April 7, 2024. Monday. Agent Delgado sat across from Victor Reyes in an interrogation room. Victor had lawyered up immediately. A court-appointed attorney named Susan Park. My client has nothing to say, Park said. That's fine, Delgado said. But here's what we know. We found Imani Scott's blood on gloves in your house. We found dirt from the burial site in your truck. We have the burner phone showing Lawrence Caldwell ordered you to handle Imani. We have your phone's location data placing you at the Caldwell mansion the night she was killed, and at the construction site where she was buried. We have you on security cameras. We have a gas station receipt from right after you buried her. We have everything, Victor. Victor stared at the table. Delgado leaned forward. But here's what I also know, Delgado continued. You've been doing this for Lawrence Caldwell for 15 years. The burner phone records go back to 2009. We've been looking into other cases. Other women who disappeared or died under suspicious circumstances after being involved with Lawrence. Victor's eyes flickered up. We found for other women so far, Delgado said. Carly Preston, 2009. Jasmine Torres, 2019. Brittany Volkova, 2016. Morgan Hayes, 2021. All of them had relationships with Lawrence. All of them disappeared or died. And all of them died right after Lawrence paid you large sums of money through offshore accounts. Victor said nothing. You're going to prison for the rest of your life, Delgado said. That's not negotiable. But you can choose how. You can take the fall alone and protect Lawrence. Or you can tell us everything, and we'll recommend against the death penalty. Susan Park cut in. We're done here. But 3 days later, Victor changed his mind. He called for Delgado, and he confessed. April 10, 2024. Thursday. Victor Reyes confessed to 5 murders. Imani Scott, March 10, 2024. Shot twice in the head at Lawrence's mansion. buried at the Kendall construction site. Jasmine Torres, April 29, 2019. Shot in the head. Buried in the Everglades. Lawrence paid $250,000. Brittany Volkova, August 18, 2016. Drugged with sedatives, then drowned in Biscayne Bay. Made to look like an accident. Lawrence paid $300,000. Morgan Hayes, February 10, 2021. Shot in the head. Body dumped in the ocean near Key Largo. Lawrence paid $275,000. Carly Preston, November 2009. Beaten to death. Buried in the Everglades. Lawrence paid $250,000. Total payments from Lawrence to Victor over 15 years, $3.2 million. Victor provided account numbers, wire transfer records, meeting locations, dates, details, everything. The FBI reopened all 4 cold cases as homicides. They searched the Everglades based on Victor's directions. On June 8, 2024, they found skeletal remains matching Jasmine Torres's dental records. Gunshot wound to the skull confirmed. They exhumed Brittany Volkova's body from a cemetery in North Miami. New toxicology found sedatives in her bone marrow that she'd never been prescribed. The original ruling of accidental drowning was changed to homicide. They never found Morgan Hayes's body, but they found her abandoned car near Key Largo. Victor's DNA was on the driver's seat. They found Carly Preston's remains in a remote area of the Everglades in January 2023. Blunt force trauma to the skull. The evidence was overwhelming. On April 15, 2024, Lawrence Caldwell was indicted on 5 counts of first-degree murder. Victor Reyes was indicted on the same 5 counts. Both pleaded not guilty. The trial was set for October 2024. October 14, 2024. Monday. The trial began at the federal courthouse in downtown Miami. The courtroom was packed. Media from across the country. Court TV cameras broadcasting live. Reporters from CNN, NBC, Fox News. True crime podcasters. Legal analysts. YouTube channels. Imani's family sat in the front row of the gallery. Sharon Scott wore a black dress and held a framed photo of her daughter. Imani at her college graduation, smiling, hopeful, alive. Nia sat beside her mother, gripping Sharon's hand so tightly her knuckles were white. Lawrence Caldwell entered the courtroom in a navy suit and white shirt. No tie. He'd lost weight over the past 6 months. His silver hair was still perfectly styled, but his face looked gaunt. Hollow. He sat at the defense table next to Richard Mosley. Victor Reyes entered in an orange jumpsuit. Shackles on his wrists and ankles. He sat at a separate defense table next to Susan Park. The prosecution was led by Assistant U.S. Attorney Monica Herrera, 42 years old. Career prosecutor. 87% conviction rate in murder cases. She stood and addressed the jury. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, "this case is about power, about control, about a man who believed he was above the law, a man who treated women like possessions, a man who, when those women threatened to expose him, had them murdered." She pointed at Lawrence. Lawrence Caldwell is sitting in that chair because he thought he could get away with murder. For 15 years, he did get away with it. He seduced young women, made them promises, and when they became inconvenient, when they wanted more than he was willing to give, he had them killed. Monica walked to the evidence table, picked up a photo of Imani. Imani Scott was 26 years old. She had a college degree. She had dreams. She had a family who loved her. She fell in love with the wrong man. A man who promised her a future. A man who lied to her for 4 months. And when she refused to disappear quietly, he sent her a text message ordering her execution. Monica held up a blown-up image of the text from Lawrence's burner phone. "She knows. Handle it." "Those 3 words," Monica said, "are a death sentence." Lawrence Caldwell sent that message at 10:15 p.m. on March 9th while sitting across from Imani at dinner, while holding her hand, while telling her he loved her. And 3 hours later, she was dead. Shot twice in the head. Buried in concrete. Erased. The courtroom was silent. Over the next 3 weeks, Monica continued. You will see evidence that proves, beyond any doubt, that Lawrence Caldwell conspired to murder 5 women. And you will see that his accomplice, Victor Reyes, carried out those murders with cold, calculated precision. She set down the photo of Imani. When you deliberate, remember their faces. Imani Scott, Jasmine Torres, Brittany Volkova, Morgan Hayes, Carly Preston. 5 women, 5 lives. All taken because one man thought he was untouchable. She looked at the jury. Show him he was wrong. The trial lasted 19 days. Day 1 to 3, the affair and the threat. Keisha Williams testified first. She told the jury about Imani and Lawrence's relationship, about the lies Lawrence told, about the promises he made. He told her he was getting divorced, Keisha said, crying. He told her they had a future. She believed him. Keisha showed the text Imani had sent on March 7th. If anything happens to me, it's Lawrence. He threatened me today. He said he knows how to make problems disappear. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Sharon Scott testified next. She talked about her daughter, about how hard Imani had worked to escape Liberty City, about her dreams. She wanted a better life, Sharon said through tears, and she thought Lawrence was going to give her that. Instead, he took everything from her. Day 4 to 6. The phone records. Agent Delgado testified. He explained how the FBI found the burner phone, how they traced the messages between Lawrence and Victor. The prosecution displayed the messages on a screen. March 9, 2024, 10:15 p.m. Lawrence to Victor. She knows. Handle it. Victor to Lawrence. Understood. Delgado explained the timeline. This message was sent while Lawrence was at dinner with Imani. He was looking into her eyes, holding her hand, and at the same time, he was ordering Victor to kill her. Day 7 to 10. The murder and the body. Dr. Patricia Vance, the medical examiner, testified about Imani's autopsy. She showed photos of the bullet wounds, explained the trajectory, the close-range shots. This was an execution, Dr. Vance said. The shooter stood behind her and fired twice at the base of her skull. This was not a crime of passion. This was planned. Professional. The prosecution played security footage from Lawrence's mansion showing Victor entering at 3:02 a.m. and leaving at 3:51 a.m. carrying a rolled rug. They showed photos of Imani's body as it was found, buried beneath concrete, partially decomposed, still wearing the champagne dress. Sharon Scott collapsed into Nia's arms, sobbing. Day 11 to 13. The other victims. The prosecution called witnesses for the other 4 victims. Jasmine Torres's mother, Brittany Volkova's sister, Morgan Hayes's brother, Carly Preston's father. They all told similar stories. Young women who'd had affairs with Lawrence, who'd wanted more, who'd threatened to expose him, who'd disappeared or died shortly after. The prosecution showed financial records. $3.2 million paid from Lawrence to Victor over 15 years. Every payment corresponding to a woman's death. Day 14 to 16. The defense. Richard Mosley argued that Lawrence had no knowledge of Victor's actions. My client hired Victor for security consulting. He had no idea Victor was a killer. The text handle it referred to paying Imani to stay quiet, not murdering her. The jury didn't believe him. Prosecutors showed that Lawrence had disabled security cameras, given Victor the key, chosen the burial site, fabricated an alibi. Susan Park argued Victor acted alone. Victor Reyes is a killer, but he made his own decisions. The prosecution destroyed that with phone records showing communication before every murder. Day 17 to 18. Closing arguments. Monica Herrera gave her final argument. Lawrence Caldwell thought he was untouchable. He thought money and power would protect him. For 15 years it did. But Imani Scott didn't let him get away with it. She told her friend. She sent that text. And even in death, she made sure the truth came out. She paused. 5 women are dead because one man couldn't accept being told no. Deliver the verdict they deserve. Guilty. Day 19. The verdict. The jury deliberated for 11 hours. At 4:47 p.m. on November 5, 2024, they returned. In the matter of the United States versus Lawrence James Caldwell, on the count of first-degree murder of Imani Scott, guilty. On the count of first-degree murder of Jasmine Torres, guilty. On the count of first-degree murder of Brittany Volkova, guilty. On the count of first-degree murder of Morgan Hayes, guilty. On the count of first-degree murder of Carly Preston, guilty. Sharon Scott collapsed. The courtroom erupted. Lawrence sat motionless. In the matter of the United States versus Victor Manuel Reyes, on all counts of first-degree murder, guilty. December 6, 2024. Sentencing. Both men received life in prison without possibility of parole. Lawrence, 5 consecutive life sentences. Victor, 5 consecutive life sentences. Before sentencing, Nia gave a victim impact statement. You took my sister because she refused to disappear. You thought you could erase her, but you couldn't. She's remembered. You're forgotten. Sharon spoke through tears. My baby was 26 years old. She had dreams, and you took it all. The judge gave Lawrence a final chance to speak. He looked at Sharon. I'm sorry, he said quietly. Sharon screamed. Sorry doesn't bring her back. Lawrence was led away in handcuffs. Victor said only, I did what I was paid to do. The judge sentenced him immediately. You are a monster. You'll die in a cage. Epilogue. The FBI investigation continued. They eventually connected Lawrence and Victor to 2 more murders. Melissa Grant, 2013, strangled. Rebecca Chun, 2011, beaten to death. 7 women total. 7 lives destroyed. The 4 women who'd survived filed a class action lawsuit. In March 2023, they won. Lawrence's $340 million estate was frozen and distributed to victims' families. Sharon established the Imani Scott Foundation to help women escape abusive relationships. Nia became a victims' rights advocate. Lawrence Caldwell is at Coleman Federal Penitentiary. He's 62. He'll die there. Victor Reyes is at ADX Florence in solitary confinement. He'll die there too. And Imani Scott? She's remembered, not as a victim, as the woman who refused to disappear. The woman who sent that text. The woman who exposed a killer. Pay attention when something feels wrong. Pay attention to threats disguised as promises. Because Imani paid attention. And it cost her everything. But it brought justice. Not just for her. For all of them.